let's start again with another kind of stand-up. So yesterday I merged some pull requests using Git and Git rebase. These pull requests depended on each other, so I had to remove some commits from the second pull request. Yeah, I did this via interactive rebasing. And then I created this project card component using Storybook. We can have a quick look here. So this is the card component. And yeah, this is currently in review. I have an open pull request for that, and we'll merge that in a bit. And today I would like to continue with a project list component, this ticket here. And basically what that is, let's see, where's my Figma design? Here. This is this list here. So the data comes from an API, and we'll use React query to render this data and to fetch and render this data. Yeah, so maybe before we start with that, let's quickly have a look at the project card. Compared to the last tickets that I did, this was relatively quick to do. And I think this is because the project setup now actually is fleshed out. Yeah, so here we have the project card story for Storybook. And then here's the project card itself. It's currently a rather big file because we have the types and then also the style components in the same file. I'm still thinking about doing a refactoring video to use a proper folder structure, feature-based folder structure, and then maybe also split these files into multiple files. But yeah, I haven't decided on that yet. So this is pretty straightforward, as you can see. Yeah, here we also changed the theme. So I don't think we need to change anything here. So let's go back to some of my mouse is doing weird stuff. So let's quickly squash and merge this. Okay. So let's go back to the board. Now the next step is to move this into done. And let's take the next ticket, the create project list. This is also the only description here includes API call, but the rest of the details are here in the story. So we have the user story here and then some acceptance criteria. There's also the API endpoint here. This one here. View issues link, okay. Yeah, that's another thing. The API endpoint is now implemented. You can see it here. Let's hope it works. Yeah, it does. That's good. Okay. So as I said, I want to use React query to fetch the data. And yeah, the reason is basically that React query handles a lot of use cases like loading state, error state, and caching, stuff like this, retrying. I haven't really worked with it yet, so this is pretty new to me as well. In my previous project, I usually worked with GraphQL APIs and something like Apollo or Relay. One time actually before React query was there, we also built kind of React query ourselves, but that was like terrible and yeah, lots of bugs. It's not easy to do to implement something like this. And yeah, before React query, As I said, some people use GraphQL and GraphQL clients, but before that, even most people used Redux, for example, for local as well as server state management. This worked kind of fine, but yeah, it's a lot of overhead and also not the right place to combine the two data sets, like the local state and the server-side state. And it just requires a lot of boilerplate. And then a lot of people migrated away from Redux, or at least from using server state in Redux, and some people may have used useEffect like to fetch data. But then luckily a few years ago, React Query and also other libraries popped up, and these are very, very much recommended in the community. So let's have a quick look and get started here with the project. So here's my pages folder, and I already have the index page here. So this, for example, could be a place to add the query. Now I have a Next.js project, and you may know that Next.js supports server-side rendering as well as client-side rendering, and static site generation. So for server-side rendering, we could use we could fetch the data on the server side, but here this is more of admin dashboard. So users have to log in and only then can see this data. So it doesn't really make sense to server-side render this from my perspective. So I would just directly fetch the data here in the component on the client. So we can maybe start with a naive approach. This is what you might see without using query, React Query. So here we can use a simple useEffect that runs only once when the component is mounted, so the empty dependency area here. And then what we could do is like fetch and then the URL, and I guess that's actually it. Then something like then data JSON, and then my keyboards again. Yeah. And then we have the projects. Sorry for that. Maybe my batteries are dying. I hope not. So projects. Okay, so let's quickly grab the URL here. And then, which one is this? Okay, this is the Storybook that's running. So at first this seems pretty easy to do, and like just getting the data, it's actually pretty straightforward. Here you can see already this is the data, and now what we could do is use const and then projects, set projects, and then we could leave it undefined for now. And here we could say so projects data And then we would simply something like this, dot map, and then project card. This is what I did yesterday. And let's see, this requires ID. Let's destructure this ID. So we get a few TypeScript errors here. This could be, I don't have the type yet. Anyways, this is just for demonstration. So basically this would be how it works very quickly. And yeah, so you can see that we have the data here. So now the problem starts. Like first, what happens when there's an error? Then you would start with a catch, and then have like a different state for use state, and then error state, for example, and then like there's caching involved. So you might want to cache this API request, and like when we navigate from one page to the other, then it doesn't take so long to actually be rendered again. And caching is really hard to do, so you don't really want to do that yourself. Yeah, then retry logic, for example, what happens if a mutation, like a post request, for example, fails, or also like a get request here, then you might want to do some retry. Yeah, this gets really complicated really quickly. So let's not use the naive approach here, but rather go for something like React Query. So as I said, I'm pretty new to this myself, and maybe this is interesting to you how I would approach my research. So like earlier in my career, I would like immediately Google for a tutorial and then check the tutorial and just like try to copy paste as much code as possible. But nowadays I would actually start with a documentation, and many of the popular libraries, for example this one, or Next.js also has a really good documentation. You will find most of your answers there. And here, as you can see, it's actually quite extensive. And we also have the examples here. So these might actually be more up to date than any tutorial that you will find. And like the quality, if the docs are good, then the quality of the examples might also be much better than like some random person on the internet who tried React Query. Yeah, you can read a lot about the motivation here, and as I said, there's caching, for example, out-of-date data, like refetching in the background, stuff like this. So this seems really like a good thing to do, and it's also very recommended in the community. And here's a small example. So this is something that we could already start with. I had a look already in the documentation, and yeah, basically we can, I guess, start with something like this. So first step, I would like to install React Query, the package. I'm still on the project card branch, so maybe I should change that. Let's So let's check out a new branch from the main branch, and this will be project list. So now we can not poop, sorry. Okay. So now we have React Query installed. Here's a quick start, but I also saw that we have the React Query DevTools. Okay, these are already installed, which is nice. So let's start with a quick start here. So the first thing that we have to do is to wrap our application in a query client provider. Let's do it like this. So our app is here, and move that up. And now let's see, you can use this code here. Navigation provider. I don't think it matters much where we put this. Okay, navigation also needs to be imported. Okay, so that's the first setup that we have to do. And now, as far as I know, we can directly use this. Let me also quickly set up the DevTools because that looks really interesting. This also has to be done in the app, and as far as I read, this is only imported in development. So it's on the same level, I guess. As okay, so this seems to be the DevTools. So for now, nothing is happening, as expected, of course. And now let's start with the first example here. So let's change this query, and then this will be our fetch function. So we can remove this. And now I guess we can destructure this. So data, and then loading, error. And now, for now, let's use a very simple approach, div loading. Let's see what kind of type we have here. It's unknown, okay. So quick error handling. Error, and then let's see. And then finally data. I'm not sure what data looks like now. So let's check here. Query data map. So it's probably we can remove this. So let's see. Okay, so we have a response here. This seems to be undefined, so let's check like this. Data map, okay. Maybe I need to probably need to use this fetch and then data JSON. Let's see if this works. Yeah, okay. So my bad. Yeah, we have a warning here about the key prop of the project card here. So right here, key ID should be gone. Yeah, so this already looks a lot easier, and as you can see, this also gives us access to like the loading and the error state. Now let's see what the error looks like when I would have expected to get an error here. 404. But okay, let's skip this. So next step, I would actually like to check out the examples here. And here, as you can see, the examples use Axios. And I think this is a bit nicer actually to, because the API is a bit simpler. And you have some extra features like cancelable requests. And in this example, it says that you should usually use a custom hook. So let's do that as well. So first let's install Axios. And then we can use basically this code here. So simple GET request here. Let's see, Axios not defined yet. So I hope this data one map. Okay, I guess no, this is actually correct. So this means we already run the problems here. Let's check if this actually works. Ah, no, just needed to refresh probably. Did I refresh here? Perfect. Okay, so this looks good. Now, let's move this into a custom hook. The advantage here should be objects. The advantage of using custom hook is that we can reuse these queries wherever we want, and we don't need to pay attention to the to this cache key here. So let's, I'm not sure, let's call it for now API, and then project, use projects. So let's quickly have a look how they define the custom hook. So this basically directly returns the use query result. So we can use this here. Let's use project. So here we can now projects. This should do the same. Yes, it does. And now you can see that data is of type any. So since we use TypeScript, this would be nice to return some kind of type. Let's see if they have an example for TypeScript. Here's getting started TypeScript. So okay, so this will define the error, and this will define the data type. So I already basically have defined the project type here. We'll quickly copy paste that here and then probably reuse that somewhere. So this will be a project language, status. And then let's see. Okay, so this looks actually already quite good. Now, let's see what props we have here. So language. Okay. And status. So yeah, I'm not sure. We could also use the project basically and destructure it here. So key would be project ID, and then so this works as well. And now we actually have already all the data here in the list. So I guess this was also extracted. Then get project. I see. Like this, and then here, let's see, still works fine. Yeah, so this is obviously a pretty simple use case where like we don't have any inputs, we don't have filters, or we don't use an ID to get a project or something. Yeah, but for now, it's actually quite interesting how quickly you can get use query up and running. So let's see. Not sure if there's anything else that I need to do. I think I don't need this one here because okay, this is actually possibly undefined. Let's check the examples again because I didn't see anything like this. So yeah, they don't check for undefined here. My assumption is that is error and maybe is fetching is also. Let me quickly check the API. So queries. So maybe the API reference has some more information. So options. So here you can see that we can use retry amount, retry delay, stale time. So this, I guess, used to refetch data in the background. So quite a lot of options that we don't really need here. So idle shouldn't happen to us. Loading, we check that. Error also, we check that. So my best guess is when we create function and then so let's see. Data still is possibly undefined. Okay, then let's make TypeScript happy here, and just like this is basically the same as saying and data.map, but we can use the short form here. Yeah, so this looks already pretty good. There's some more this one here and the info as well. They don't seem to have the correct color, but we will check that in a bit. Yeah. And the other thing that I like to do is to reuse this this type here. So we have project card, and let's see, where do we use this? Okay, and only in the story, it seems. Project card props. And now I guess we should use project. So API, I can still add this path here to it doesn't make a big difference at the moment. So we can, this might come in handy later on if we nest the project, the structure more. Okay. And then maybe I'd like to have another Next.js file as public API, and then use projects. So now we can and we should also yeah, let's export this for now as well, project language, but I guess we should actually okay, so seems to complain. Export type. Okay. I guess we should actually maybe move these to its own file, types file, and then we can do import type. API. And then, yeah, basically the project language, and project status. Okay. I shouldn't do this, but rather, because it's used, shouldn't import this as type. Okay, so this is also not possible. Then I need to do this. Okay, so now this works. Now let's do it like this. Okay, so a little refactoring here. Use projects. And then we have so this would be easier. The reason why I moved away from the destructuring here is that it's a bit easier to have a project type here. Otherwise, like let's assume that this project card props uses the project attributes directly, then we could do something like project. This would be the type. Then if we would add some additional type, additional props here, for example, like highlight is highlighted or something, then we could do it like this. But if we wouldn't use all the attributes from project, we would need to, like, the type would get more and more complicated, so it's actually easier to just use the project as a prop here. And it also looks still quite clean here. Okay. So let's see. I'm still interested what the arrow looks like, but I guess actually now it should show here. So we could show something like arrow.message. So something wrong here. Maybe I need to restart. So I added some alias here. Thing now is that I should also, yeah, that was it. So I also should update this here. Storybook. I would guess that Storybook wouldn't use any API calls actually, but yeah, you never know. Doesn't hurt to add this, I guess. Okay, so looks like the data is coming from the backend now and everything is set up correctly. Let's quickly check what this is expecting. So project card. Children arrow. Color undefined, okay. Status is error. Okay, these don't seem to be correct anymore. So info warning seems to work, and then capitalize status. This this is now the wrong text, of course. So I don't really want to tie the display text here to the TypeScript enum. Let's rather do something like this. Then stable warning, and this was critical. This is what our UI should render. And then we can actually, we'll just leave loaders. The tree shaking should take care of loaders not being inside the production bundle. Okay, so this actually looks good now. I did a bit too much here again, forgot to create a commit. So maybe we can use this one here. React query. Then and then finally Windows. Okay. Now let's see. So for now these can stay here, but so the problem now is that if we had another hook here, like use project, for example, to get a single project, these types would need to be defined somewhere else. So let me just quickly project.types.ts, not sure, types, let's call it types. And then this here. Now these export from project types, and this also. So I think this will be a bit cleaner, and now yeah. The nice thing now is that we use this public API file, the Next.js. So project card also uses these types, but since those are imported by the index file, we didn't need to adjust anything. We can refactor it within this project folder here, and the outer world doesn't really care about what we do there. So uses separate Okay, and then the next step, I think, let's actually check this one here. So this seems to be the cache index, basically. And now we can really check the, okay. The data here. That's really handy, I think. It's the close button. Okay, so now we can continue styling this app. So as you can see here, it's actually now single line, and then it spans the full width of this. So maybe we should, the designs here, it looks a bit like this has a maximum width. Not really sure. Let's check if there's something in the theme. Grid layouts. Doesn't really look like this sticks to any grid. So let's, not sure. 389. It's not really a typical width that we would see in the style guide here. Let's check if we can use something like 400. And in the read team, I guess I would reach out to the designer now, or just implement it with like something. This would be 25 REM. So I would probably just go ahead and build this and then present it to the designer later, because this is not really hard to change. So yeah, maybe like this. So with the max width, it can also be smaller, which will be very important on smaller screens, like here, for example. So to make this mobile compatible. So let's call this max width. Project. Project card. And now we have the container here, so okay. So then there should be some kind of gap in between 24 pixel, 24 pixel. So one classic way of doing this, I guess, is to have a container around this. So we can basically assign a margin of 12 pixel to each of these components. I don't know, actually 12 pixel. And doesn't work because then we only have 12 pixel here. And 24. Okay, let's give this a quick try here. So index. Now, I will create a style component here around this. Styled dot div now display flex wrap. So this works already. And margin should be minus. Let's see if that works. So we have a margin of minus 24 pixel, and then each project card gets 24 pixel. So this doesn't seem to be. Let's quickly check. So this is actually 12 pixel now, and then this should also be 12 pixel. Okay. Now let's see. This is space 3. It's the utility function that I introduced. And this should also be space 3. Okay. Now let's see how this behaves. So this looks already quite good, but as you can see, the width is not expanding. Like here, it's actually, I set it now to max width of 400 pixel. Maybe there's actually a smarter way of doing this. Sure. Let's see if we, yeah, okay. So flex 1, this helps us here. So flex direction, column, flex 1. But this still looks a bit terrible here on the smaller. So let's see how this behaves responsive. So this is fine, I think. But this isn't, of course. So yeah, obviously this doesn't really work. Maybe we should rethink the approach to have a proper grid or something. So CSS grid. CSS tricks is a great resource usually. I'm not a pro with CSS grid, obviously. I always have to look that up. And I'm also not really sure if this is the right place to go, but you can see that like we have the gap here, which is really nice to get rid of this strange margin trick. So here we could define like the number of columns that we want to have for different breakpoints. With grid template columns. The problem that we would solve this way is like you can see here, we have two items that are like this wide, and then we have one that is wider than the others, which doesn't really look nice. So let's quickly try it. I'm usually a fan of like prototyping here in the dev tools. So grid template. Here's this one. So now in this case, here, for example, 2 would be still enough. And we could get rid of this margin, just use 24 pixel here. And then also get rid of this margin. So this would be a lot easier. But then you can see that we would run into problems like this. So in this layout, it looks like we have 2 columns only. It's always like designs never really provide like all the intermediate stages. Like here we only have a mobile design and a desktop design. But of course, like my screen, for example, is quite a bit larger than this one here. And then there's even larger screens, so it's makes sense to wrap a container around this. But at the same time, it's unclear if we should have maybe 3 columns or something. Yeah, let's see. I'm struggling now a bit to find the right approach. Should do something like this. Yeah, I guess I have to dig deeper into CSS Grid, and then maybe I can do that either after break or later off screen, not sure. Okay, yeah, I guess I will pull the plug here and just continue doing this later or off screen, as I said. If I continue doing this, I will update you with a solution next time. And yeah, I guess you don't have to watch me struggle and struggle to try out different approaches here. Yeah, okay, so thanks for watching.